At the time when I first met the Paez Christians in 2013, they were living in a makeshift village, a refugee camp in southwestern Colombia, and the conditions were very poor, especially after it had rained. They would spend 5 long years there. But why had they been forced from their community?
We have been persecuted simply because we are evangelical Christians. We don't want to come under the tribal leaders and do the things they say we must do.
Marco Tulio is one of the leaders and spokesman for this Christian community in the Andes Mountains. He was among those who stood up to the tribal leaders because of what they were told to do, like stealing, land raids, drunkenness, and taking part in rituals linked to Spiritism.
Christianity is to follow Christ Jesus, and when someone is a Christian, you have to follow the Lord and not be involved in witchcraft, casting spells, and demonic practices. That was very much a part of the place where we used to live and among the people there.
The opposition against these followers of Christ intensified after an avalanche caused by the eruption of a volcano forced all the people in their village to flee. Government aid was given to the tribal leaders, but they refused to help the Christians, forcing them out in 2007. There were also threats of violence against them. 47 of the 97 evangelical families refused to renounce their faith or keep it a secret. As a result, they were driven out and had to travel over 100 kilometers. They would set up a temporary village on a farmer's field, living in little huts made of plastic on dirt floors. It was a struggle to survive, and some of the families had thoughts of going back.
We had a hard time just getting food on our tables, getting clean water so our bodies could be nourished. At that point, some families felt we should just go back to where we were, even if we couldn't proclaim our faith.
But they didn't return.
We as the church leaders and heads of the families reminded each other that Jesus also suffered. As true believers, we also had to be believers in our works, and not just what we said, and that we would also have to suffer. And that is what kept us strong when we didn't have very much food on the table.
For the mothers like Liliana and Luz, being forced to flee with their children with very few belongings, well, the burden at times was almost unbearable, and their faith would also be tested many times.
It was very difficult for me because I had little children. One day we were just kicked out from that place. We had to sleep in tents.
Liliana says there is no way she would compromise her faith in Jesus in order to have a better place to live.
I didn't want to go back, but my husband said yes, because of our kids. We need to think about their future and we have nothing. But I told him I wasn't going back, and he stayed with me.
Luz had 3 children at the time they were driven out, and was also very adamant that she would not return to a community where she would be forced to recant or hide her relationship with Jesus, even if it would make life easier. And things were very difficult in the refugee village.
I said I will not go back for anything, but my kids were growing and my husband couldn't see much hope. He got some work on farms in the area, but in the dry season there wasn't any work. He was very worried about our kids. It was really hard. We were trusting in the Lord and that He was going to send us help, but time passed and it turned into years with no help.
After enduring 5 years of living in terrible conditions and with no help even from the government, things were not looking good. But then Russell Stendhal and Sammy Hernandez of VOM Canada partner Columbia Paez-kristittyjen were made aware of the situation by the Colombian army and agreed to help.
At the beginning, I felt really bad because we were waiting and waiting. But we were told one day that some brothers from another country bought a piece of land. We couldn't believe it. We were so happy and thankful for that to happen.
The Voice of the Martyrs Finland purchased that piece of land. Meanwhile, Christians from the U.S. provided houses for the almost 50 families. A missionary from Alaska set up a water treatment plant. Others helped with the electrical. An expert in agriculture donated his time, showing them the best way to grow trees, fruit, and vegetables. Within a year, this village of 300, which is called Nuestra Tierra, which in English is translated to our land, was already self-sufficient.
And it's just amazing. It's amazing how they came to be a very important Christian community that gives an example through all the area of what the Lord has done with them.
So Marco, you're chased from your village, you're forced to live in poverty, you're rejected from your community. How has that strengthened your faith, and also the fact that you've had help from Christians all over the world?
It made us incredibly happy that those people, who we had no idea of who they were, came and were so generous. It has motivated us to spread the gospel and be where the Lord wants us.
I mean, I know you look at this village as a miracle. You're growing so much, fruit and vegetables. You've got places for people to live. But I know it doesn't stop there. You have a real heart for ministry to continue to evangelize. Tell me about some of the things you'd like to do in the future.
We want to form a good way to educate from the littlest ones, a Christian education teaching about the Lord from here. We have over 100 children in our village. Also for the children in the communities in the hills around us to come and be taught the gospel. We want to get a bit more land with a higher altitude so we can put a radio station and broadcast the gospel to all the hillsides so they would be exposed to that radio station.
These hard-working Paez Christians are developing new businesses which will allow them to build relationships in the surrounding communities and beyond. They are grateful that they weren't forgotten by God and His people, and will let the light of the gospel shine brightly from a place they now call home.
Thank you to all the people who supported and helped us, because we didn't know what would have happened to us without that help. I ask the Lord to bless you more than what we received. I am grateful. I understand when one part of the body is hurting. I feel we received help from people in other places because they were feeling the hurt we were suffering.